So you have it. So you have it. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? This is your man once again, Dietrich Waters, the host of Thrive 365. And normally you will have your co-host here, Renard Polk. But Renard has some business to handle tonight. So not instead, but somebody that has blessed us with his presence once again, man. Do I have to give all these accolades?
No, please don't.
Since he said don't, we're going to do it towards the end of the show. But I give you none other than Mr. Jimmy Rogers.
What's going on, man? I do appreciate you, asking me to be here. And Renard, trying to sit in Renard's shoes, man. That boy got some big feet, man. It's hard to fill his shoes, man. But,
hey, man,
but I'm glad to be here, man. I'm glad to be here.
He'll good one, man. He'll good one, man. But if Renard was here, he'll say, man, cut it out, because you're a giant, man. You know what I'm saying?
Look, man, I'm just glad I can be of service to someone, man.
Honestly. There it is, man. We're going to dive into this thing, man, and we're going to give you more about who Mr. Jimmy Rogers is. No, I can't do that. I'm sorry. And I'm not going to do him a disservice. Jimmy, please tell the people what you got going on.
Well
briefly.
Wow. Well,
if
man,
you can.
My name is Jimmy Rogers. Of course, my wife and I, we are the founders of Relationship Real Talk. And we do a lot of relationship seminars, workshops, and we love to enhance relationships in general. And guys, I'm one of those ones who believe in getting to the root of the problem. That's why we call it Real Talk.
Real Talk.
And so when it comes to relationships, I'm all about let's thrive. Too
Yep.
often we like to survive.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in why survive when you can thrive.
Absolutely.
You can take your relationships to the next level. All we have to be willing to do to accomplish that is change.
That's it.
And so that's the gist of who I am and what I love to do, and it's literally something I love to do.
Right.
Yeah. So
And I appreciate you, man. But when I tell you I appreciate you, man, for who you are and what you got going on and what you're doing, because I've been blessed by your show. You still doing the show on Sundays?
well, man, look, we're about to start back airing. We've been doing a lot of product creation, man.
Okay.
And so we've been producing a lot of different things, and so we're really getting our guest list together.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're going to have you and Renard back on. But we're getting our guest list together so we can start back airing because, we went away because we wanted to really have some other things of value to offer the people who were supporting us. So, but yeah, we're about to get started. 2020 is going to be a good year for us.
Yes, man. Revamping the brand, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we were doing. Just really trying to expand the brand, so to speak. And we have some amazing opportunities coming up. I can't really speak on them now until they are secure. And once they're secure, I will definitely share it with you. But
I got you.
It's something major coming down the pipe that we are excited about.
There it is.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get some information on you towards the middle and towards the end of the show.
Okay.
But we're going to get the people what they've been asking for. People. Welcome to Thrive 365. You already know I'm Dietrich Waters. As he said, he is Mr. Jimmy Rogers of Relationship Real Talk. Man, we're bringing the heat tonight. And when I say bringing the heat, just a cool, simple conversation. This is what Thrive 365 is.
Mm-hmm.
This is where success, substance, and relationships matter. And speaking of relationships, we're talking about the topic that's the hand that we have at hand tonight. Dating people with mental illness. It's a real thing. I don't care what community, what race you come from. It's not biased. It doesn't care the age. It doesn't care the gender. It doesn't care any of that.
It sure doesn't.
So to my understanding, man, this is a topic that is well overdue.
Mm-hmm.
And we thank you guys that's chiming in tonight. Stay with us. We got some good stuff coming down the pipe. And please, people, whatever you have on your mental, let it go through your fingers. And we're here to read and we're here to respond. Okay?
All right. And please share it. Because I think it'll benefit a lot of people to
Absolutely.
hear, how to handle and deal with a lot of these
Yep.
things that people have been dealing with. So, I saw the topic when you posted it. I was like, oh man, that's gonna be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's dive into it, man.
But so tonight, man,
Mm-hmm.
normally, a lot of times I would narrate the situation, and sometimes Renard will narrate. Since you're filling in for Renard tonight, it's not so much a special guest thing, so we're not doing a somewhat like a like I'm a host and you just coming on.
Right.
Oh, you filling in, man. You're one of the guests tonight.
Right.
I'm gonna allow you to narrate, please.
Well,
'Cause I don't want I don't want to feel these shoes, man.
Man,
this
crazy.
guy right here, he's strong, but you finna see.
I mean, when we're talking about mental health,
Yeah.
dating someone with mental health, man, I think we have to get to the root of what's really happening, especially in our community. We know that mental health is a taboo subject in the Black community.
It is.
We don't like to address it, and for those of us who may have family members or in our, who may be suffering from something, we think something's wrong with them. We try to pray it away.
Right.
And heaven knows I am a firm believer in prayer. However, sometimes we need to take people to be properly treated by those who specialize in that area.
Amen.
And so I think in the Black community, we refuse to accept
Why, man?
that something
why?
could be. It's just an unrealistic, unhealthy stigma that we have built in our community. And it's sad because we have a lot of untreated, undiagnosed people in our community, and it's hurting us long-term wise, because the people that are dealing with these issues, they're normal people just like you and I.
Absolutely.
They want to be loved. They want to get married. They may want to have kids.
Absolutely.
But they never properly dealt with that issue, and so now their interaction with society is strenuous. They suffer when it comes to having relationships.
Right.
Yeah. So
because they had to deal with themselves, let alone other people that had to deal with themselves.
Exactly.
Yep. So anybody that's watching this tonight, man, just know if you're dealing with anybody, man, with mental illness, whether you're dating them or whether they're just somebody in your life, somebody that's on your job, somebody that's within your family, and as he was saying before, a lot of times, especially in the Black community, we kind of push things under the rug and we'll pray about it, but we don't address the situation at hand and try to conduct the situation that is the way it should be dealt with, and that is breaking down the components in it. Listen, man, you have somebody that has something going on with them. Instead of shunning them, making them feel some type of ways, instead of beating them down, or instead of ignoring the situation, allowing them to get help. And that is setting them up. But we'll get into that in just a minute. But just know if you're watching this tonight, man, and you have some people that's within your situation, please be mindful of these people. And me personally, I don't tread lightly with them, Jimmy. I don't tread, when I say them, like they some, off the wall or a creature or something. These are people.
Right. They're human beings with feelings.
I don't tread lightly with the situation, man. I kind of muscle around it a little bit.
And so what do you mean, when you're encountering someone that you may think how do you deal with it?
I don't clam up when I say I muscle up.
Exactly.
I don't clam up.
Right.
Because when you clam up, they can read body language just like we can.
And they start to feel some type of way.
And some of them senses are more keen than ours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And and you have to understand why that is, because they've been dealing with this all their lives. So they can pick up on when people are starting to feel differently or act differently around them, facial expressions, body languages, acting a little bit more standoffish, they feel too. Just because they're unable to really wrap their brain around what they're experiencing in that moment, doesn't mean that they can't feel disappointment, hurt, frustration, fear. They dealing with the same things that we deal with. And unfortunately, as I stated, even with working with couples, one of the things that I challenge couples with is dealing with unresolved issues.
Okay.
And mental illness is an unresolved issue in our community, or in the community, period, because a lot of people don't know or have not gone to be diagnosed with a certain ailment or mental illness. So they know something's wrong. And you know, and one of the key components to mental illness is stress.
Okay.
That blew my mind. I didn't know
I get that.
stress could cause so many different types of mental illness.
I get it. It's a trigger. Stress is a trigger for a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean,
illness in your body.
but when you think about it, and you think about the number of mental illness cases within various racial groups, it's high in Black Americans. And you think about it, it's like, look at all the pressures we're under.
Yeah, from the cradle.
Racism.
Yeah.
You know,
Poverty.
financial, you know, all of those things bring on levels of stress that most people are not contending with.
And our lifestyles, are based upon a lot of those things you just spoke of.
Yep. So now you have people, because of stress, they may become bipolar, they may be dealing with schizophrenia, they may be dealing with PTSD, anxiety, depression. All of those things can be results of stress. You know, and so what that tells me is, if all of us aren't careful, we could end up with a mental illness.
Absolutely.
Because we are overly stressed and we have not been able to process it correctly, and it'll take over before you know it.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're dealing with loss, you know, somebody dies that you really loved, and you don't properly deal with that loss, you can go into depression.
And I think a lot of that has to do with people, you know, you ever heard of me talk about Jaguar living? But with a big part of Jaguar living, that lifestyle is being aware of what's going on with you. It's a lot of people, especially in our community, they're not knowledgeable or aware of what's going on with them and their bodies. They're not conscious of the state of mind that they're in. At points of time, they can be stressed out and don't even know why they're acting like they're acting, and totally stressed out, totally in a state of depression, and have no idea. I don't know why I did what I did, but I did it.
Right.
And you know what? My pride is not letting me apologize for it.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, we have to be more willing to read and research.
Okay.
You said something key. We're not really keen on what's going on with our own bodies and minds and mental states. We feel it, we experience it, but then we try to deny what we're feeling.
Right.
You know, and so we will not put ourselves in a position. For those of us, let's say for those of even the viewers out there who have access to healthcare, you know, most of us don't like going to the doctor, especially males. Men will die before we want to go to a doctor.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so now you talk about something so personal about how you're feeling inside of your brain. You know, most people don't want to share that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to be labeled.
Judged, man.
Judged, you
You
know.
don't want to
And
be
so,
judged and labeled, man.
right. You know what I
That's
mean?
real.
Okay, let's look at it like
That
this.
pride, baby.
How many people want to tell somebody about an STD?
Exactly. Go ahead.
So if you know it's like squeezing blood out of a turnip to get someone to confess about an STD, you know they're not going to say anything about a mental illness.
Man, I'm trying to tell you.
You know, STDs are more accepted than mental illness is.
I'm trying to tell you.
And so people
Because that mental
are,
illness ain't going nowhere.
man, people are struggling with how they're dealing with what's going on in their head. They don't want to tell anybody because they're going to feel people are going to label them, going to abuse them, going to talk about them, you know, and so they keep it to themselves. And before you know it, all it takes is the right trigger, right level of stress. Have you ever seen somebody who just blow up and everybody looking like, oh my God, his response or her response didn't match that situation?
I see it all the time.
You see what I'm saying? And normally you can tell when something's not firing right. And we'll say, oh, they got anger problems. Yeah, it manifested in anger.
Right.
But
It
that's
manifested.
deeper. That's deeper than anger.
Man, did
know
you hear
what
what
I'm
that man
saying?
said? That man said it manifested in anger, but Anger was not the key component.
No, that's deeper than anger, you know.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't line up with what's going on in reality, you know. And sometimes I think if we know someone who we can almost guarantee something's going on, you know, helping people realize, man, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the only one dealing with something like this. But the best thing to do is go find out what you're dealing with.
Right.
And how you can treat it or cure it. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of us, we don't have a support group or a support system that will encourage us to, you know, go take care of it.
Right.
You know, most of us are, you know, we don't want to tell anybody because, you know, I don't want to hang out with them no more. You know, they ain't crazy.
Man, what do you think, man? What do you think is the proper way for someone dealing with that situation to go about it? To get help, who do you think is the first person they should confide in, like, to take that step and say, you know what, today is the last day that I'm going to be a victim of myself and this disease, and I'm admitting to myself that it is a disease, and I know that it's a chemical imbalance within my brain, which, because there's all people, and what I'm saying is, I don't want nobody to feel like what we're talking about is anybody that has a mental illness is like a monster. A disease is a disease, and nobody that has a disease asks for it.
Right.
Okay?
Or want it.
Or want it.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody with cancer, anybody that's walking around dealing with somebody with cancer like they're a monster. Okay? The only thing about mental illness is there are actions that people take. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm going to tell you the most beautiful thing in the world is people understand their reactions and how they react to the way that people act. Okay? Let me say that first and foremost. But when you have people, man, that make a decision to say, I have something going on with me that I did not ask for. So I want to address it.
Right.
Who and how do you think that they should go about addressing it, man?
You just did it. Start with me first.
No, but after that part.
No, listen. The first step is really acknowledging that something is wrong.
Okay.
Because once you do that, now the second step is 10 times easier.
Okay.
Which the second step then is now, okay, let me figure out who could help me with this. You know, so now you can start looking for it. You know, you can start looking for help. And of course, you know, you can go, depending on where you are, there are government assistance that can help you with that. And of course, if you can afford that type of medical care, that type of health care, of course, just check with your provider. Your provider has a list of doctors that specifically deal with those type of things, and you just choose who you want to go to. You read them up, look them up, see which one you feel comfortable with, and you contact that person, schedule an appointment. Right. But the first person that you have to reason with is yourself, to say, yes, I do understand something is going on with me that I can't put my finger on, and admit that I'm not able to control this.
Right.
This thing does what it want to do.
It does what
and
it
so
wanna
now I need to seek help. And we have to stop being afraid of seeking help. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not encouraging anyone to just advertise it to the world. I mean, when you go to a doctor, that stuff is private. HIPAA is protecting you. You know what I mean? So the doctor's not going to go around just telling everybody what your issues are. But at least when you accept it first, and then you make the effort to start getting the help, the medical attention, either through psychiatry or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Now you can move toward healing, or you can move toward regulating what's happening in your head, and they can help you process what's going on with you. And that to me is a life filled with fullness. Because who wants to live a life where you feel like you're just different from everybody else in a bad way?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
None of us want to feel that way.
Right.
And my heart goes out to anyone that's in that situation, especially someone who feels they can't tell anyone. that is internal torture.
Torture.
You know what I'm saying?
Torment.
And if if you're in a relationship with someone who's dealing with mental illness, please understand that whatever he or she is dealing with, they don't choose to deal with that. They didn't ask for that disease or that illness.
It's not something self-inflicted.
Right. And again, there are many, many ways. So I have to put this out there. There are many, many ways for mental health stuff to come into effect. We talked about stress, right? We talked about stress. And I did see someone on here that says, some people may have been dealing with this from childhood. Right. Some of it can be hereditary.
Yep.
It can be passed down.
I believe a lot of it is hereditary.
Well,
I've seen it.
Well, let me just say this.
Neighborhood to neighborhood.
Let me just say this too. I agree that a lot of it, some of it is hereditary, but I'm about to wake some of you all up. A lot of it is self-inflicted.
Okay.
Via alcohol, these designer drugs.
I get that.
Some medications.
I get that.
See, we don't read like we should. Some of the drugs that you're getting for other ailments can trigger certain mental illnesses.
Okay.
Have you ever heard them when they talk about a drug and then they say it real fast? May cause suicidal thoughts. They try to rush through that.
They run
through that. So you mean if I take this drug for my headache, my migraine, it's gonna make me want to kill myself?
Right.
So we have to make sure that we are very much aware of what we're putting in our bodies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Seeing in a whole state of psychosis.
Man, listen, people don't understand. You trying to have fun, but you starting a snowball effect that's going to affect you the rest of your life. Stop taking these designer drugs. Stop excessively drinking alcohol or doing whatever it is you're doing for recreation's sake.
Gotcha.
People are not concerned with your health that are giving you this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And some of the drugs that are legal prescribed drugs, they have side effects.
I got you.
Know what those side effects are before you just readily indulge in a lot of the stuff that people have indulged in. So, it's very, very important, man. I mean, it causes a lot of stuff. But what do you do, though, Dietrich, when you meet someone and you two you all connected, you know what I'm saying? Y'all vibing, and you both have kind of concluded that, I want to take this to the next level, and something happens, some stressor happens, and they respond in a way that isn't natural.
Yeah.
Right? And here's the other thing. They haven't been diagnosed with anything either.
Right, so they don't know.
They don't really know
right.
that they're dealing with something, but you see it. Should you flee? Or should you take some other course of action to help this person whom you kind of feel, you made this heart connection with? Or should you take another action where you say, hey, let's go figure out what's going on here?
I think that's based upon the person, man. Like the person know what you can deal with. You know what your buttons are. You know what you can deal with at the end of the day, and that's something that you think you're strong enough for, and you have the heart. To be honest with you, me and you was talking earlier. Me and Jimmy was talking earlier, and I was telling them that I have a big heart for people, and I have a heart for people that deal with mental illness. But you have to know where you are in your life. And I honestly had to say that I don't feel like in my life at this point in time that I can deal with somebody that has a strong dealing with mental illness. You know what I mean? Because I'm an entrepreneur, because I go. And sometimes I believe certain people dealing with certain things need a certain level of attention. You know what I'm saying? Depends on what they're dealing with.
That may be beyond your skill set.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's nothing wrong with you admitting or acknowledging, I don't know if I can deal with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's a level of stress you may not be currently dealing with in your life by yourself.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I don't want people to feel some form of guilt, But the reality is, it's work. Because now you have to. First of all, I was about to say that. relationships alone
yeah.
brings its own level of stress, right? Because that relationship is involving two different people who may have two different backgrounds, who may have two different ways of handling problems, it's a lot of different things that can make a relationship stressful in and of itself. Right. You're male, she's female. Those are differences right off the bat. You know what I mean? And so now you factor in a mental illness, and think about it. It's hard to deal with people who are not mentally ill and do stuff that get on your nerves.
Right, that part.
So think about a person who's dealing with a mental illness that they can't even control. And now you're, so it's nothing wrong with you saying, well, I don't know if I can deal with that. You're better off that way than to get involved in something
and then
and then you leave and you abandon them. You know what I'm saying? So
that's one of the hardest things with that illness too.
Right. I mean, because you don't know how a person is going to behave with certain mental illnesses. You know what I'm saying? And that's the reality.
And because and then abandonment, dealing with the situation such, you don't know how they can act out violently, but more so that I think they can act out violently or they can do self-harm behind the situation.
Exactly.
But even more so, them having an illness level up and go to another level because of these triggers in that situation. And then it triggers another illness.
Right.
Because mental illnesses, some of them, they have links. That lead to other ones, right?
Right. I mean, they do. However, I will say this. Let's just say you are a person who has been diagnosed with the mental illness and you're single and, you still want to be loved. You still want to love. You feel you have love to give. I am a component for honesty, right? Now, I don't suggest that you just tell everybody you meet that you have a mental illness. Right. But I'm talking about you've now met Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and you all have really connected, and you're starting to feel yourself care for this person, and that person has expressed the same thing for you. I think you should be fair to them and the potential relationship and say, hey, I'm really feeling you. I'm enjoying the time we spend together, but I do want you to know that I'm dealing with A, B, C, and D.
Right.
I think I owe you that.
Right.
So you can decide, what you want to do from here. Yes. Are you taking a chance to get your little feelings hurt? Yes. But you also taking a chance to find your ride or die. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, but I don't like the person that knows they can have a problem. Try to wait till you fall in love, then tell you.
Right.
Like
Popeye Black. Guess what? I got you now.
That's unfair,
And that's a real thing, man. Because and speaking of dating, man, with people with mental illness, man, that is a real thing. Just know that nobody wants to be judged. Nobody wants a finger pointed at them. Just like anything else. So people mask a lot of things and they suppress a lot of things. And when you're dealing with such a thing for so long in your life, you learn how to suppress it
and disguise it.
You learn how to disguise it and hide it. And so then when that time comes, you have the meeting of the minds, and somebody at the table, mind is not going to be at ease.
Right.
And now you're going to have to deal with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So approaching it the right way from both ends is vitally important.
Right.
Vitally important.
Right. Hey, Renard logged on. He said, I'm at work. Tuned in. Wish I was there. Man, look, Renard, man, I told Dietrich earlier, man, you got some big shoes, man. I'm trying to fill them, but, just stand in your stead, man. But appreciate you guys again for having me.
All right, man.
Man, let's see something in the comments, man.
Yeah, man. Let's
firing up, man.
We appreciate y'all for chiming in too as well, man. We're gonna jump on and read some of these comments. Talking about, come on, Jimmy. I told you, man. The people champ over here, man.
Man, listen, I love this audience, man. They're just amazing. Good evening.
Oh, now Navia Patai. I hope I said your name right.
Okay.
She said something here. She said there is no cure for a covert, somatic, grandiose, malignant narcissist.
Okay. Malignant.
Malignant. Excuse me. Malignant.
Narcissism is a cluster B personality disorder. Yeah. Well, Nubia, I understand, and somewhat agree. You know, narcissism on another level.
Whole level.
When you're talking about narcissism, or when you're talking about sociopaths, that's something totally different.
Yeah, something.
That's not something I even want to even try to entertain, because, some things you just don't come back from.
Okay, I want to say this, man, because this is a married man. I'm single, so I'm still dating. If you're watching this and if you're under that right there, I don't want no smoke. I'm telling you now, I don't want no smoke. Stay out my DM. I don't want no smoke.
But man, listen, Nubia, you are correct. I haven't heard of a cure for narcissism.
Nah.
I haven't heard a cure for someone that's a sociopath. I mean, that stuff just is. And that's unfortunate. I don't know how one comes to be that way. But yeah, I mean, those things are serious.
Can you talk a little bit about that for the people that's watching it, and they may be dating this type of person and don't know why this person acts like they act, but they fit this category?
Well, let me just say this. Unless there is a professional diagnosis, I tend to stray away from calling somebody a narcissist.
Okay.
Because, there are a lot of people I know that have some strong personalities.
Personalities, right.
And I like to call them the shade tree psychologists. They'll diagnose you with something quick.
Right.
Because they read a couple of books and maybe taken a class or two in psychology. They want to diagnose everybody. That's a narcissist.
They're clever as hell and super alpha.
Right. Narcissists are really not hard to pick out.
Yeah.
That is one that's, a little bit easy when you really read up on narcissism. Narcissists are, because they are all about them. Anything they do, it is for their benefit.
At all times.
They're never doing anything for anyone else.
Very manipulative.
Yeah. So, what do you tell someone who may be, dating a narcissist? The first thing I can tell them.
Run! Run for your life! I am not exaggerating. I'm not playing. Run!
I didn't want to say that, but I'll just say this. The likelihood of that person changing is slim to none. Right. So, I'll end it there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're married to one, I don't know what to tell you. That person's not changing. That is literally the essence of who they are. And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Man, look, I'm looking at the comments. My auntie,
hey man,
Vera Malone, she says, so true. Side effects of medication will play a part in stress. Yes, it'll play a part in stress. It'll play a part in a lot of different things. We have to understand something. Anything man makes, it has some problems associated with it.
Yeah.
It has potential problems, especially chemicals. Chemicals were not designed to be put in us.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? God literally put everything in us that we actually need. That is the downside of having a chemical imbalance. Because now you have to find a natural way to balance that chemical that's off. Because your body produces literally everything it needs, from adrenaline to everything. Right. And if you put too much artificial that in your body will stop naturally producing it.
Right.
So we have to be very careful about the medications that we're taking. Read the paperwork. Most of us, when we're hurting bad enough, we don't read nothing except for say take 2 a day, and that's what we're gonna do. We don't read the side effects. We don't read how long we should take this stuff and get off of it before it becomes detrimental to our internal organs.
Right.
And so it's a lot of things that I think as as human beings, we take for granted. We do it too freely without really looking at knowing the outcome of what's going to happen. If we keep doing these things. So this relationship thing, dealing with someone with mental illness, man, it's a tough subject, because I can only imagine the number of people who are with somebody who may not have been diagnosed, but they know something's wrong. And the person that they're dealing with may or may not want to accept that something's wrong. And think about this: how many people refuse to go get treated? Because they haven't, they don't want to accept that something's really wrong with them.
That sense of pride steps in as well.
And you love them. So you don't want to abandon them. But at the same time, you don't want them to remain the same. So there's an internal struggle on both sides of the coin. So look at all that stress that is adding into the situation. So now you're putting more stress on a person that's already dealing with something. And so that can really, really cause havoc in the sanctity of a home. It will drive peace completely out the door, And so I just think that we need to be more aware of our bodies and our minds. Because when something's not clicking right, and you recognize that this has been happening for a minute, don't be afraid to go to a doctor.
Absolutely. And get educated, man.
Both sides. Please read.
For a person that's dealing with that, having a mental illness, man, do your homework. Don't be afraid. Do your homework. For somebody that's dating somebody with a mental illness, do your homework, because if you love them, you'll love them enough to try to get them some type of help. And I know nobody's on here as a psychiatrist and all that type of thing, man, but try to educate yourself at least. If you can't get them to go to the doctor, at least educate yourself on what you're dealing with so you can deal with it the best way that you can. And I'm going to tell you something. Love is an awesome thing. I know some people that love some crackheads. You hear me? Understand this. And when people get on crack will take you to a whole nother mental state. You understand what I'm saying? You have a mental illness when you're on a drug. And this man talk about drugs, putting stuff in your body, so it'll change some things within you. So just know that if you're dealing with somebody with a mental illness, these are people. God knows. If you're watching this, man, the type of men that we are, we love you. God damn it, I love you.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And I don't have any ill will toward anyone that's sick.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Man. No,
and just because your behavior is out of the norm for what I'm used to, doesn't mean that I'm going to treat you any differently.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's why I say I must look.
Yeah, and I think when we all can adopt that type of mindset when it comes to mental illness, we'll be more encouraged to help people resolve the problem than shunning them. Shunning them or scrutinizing them.
Because you have an open mind for it.
Well, actually, because I care.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, you gotta genuinely care about somebody.
You have people. Well, you're right, because you have to already have an open mind for it to even care.
Right. I mean, yeah.
You already had to have some type of level of understanding.
And I believe when you care, it will open your mind.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? There are some people who naturally have an open mind, and they can entertain things that the average person can't entertain. But once you care, you naturally start to acquire an open mind.
I got you.
Because I care now. I genuinely want to see the best for you.
Right.
So now what I was never thinking, I'm now thinking. I'm entertaining, and I'm not, I'm not, struggling with the thought process of, man, how can I help my brother? I don't want Dietrich to feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Man, that kind of touched me. So now I care. Now I will entertain thoughts that I haven't entertained before.
The senses become king to the situation.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with us caring for other people, man. We're in a society now where caring just really is kind of
right.
People
taking a back seat in our culture, man.
Yeah. Here's another one, man. That's a good one. I think her name is Lilia Glenn.
Lilia Glenn.
Yeah, she says, are certain kinds of personalities more prone to mental illness? For example, a very introverted person versus an extrovert. How can you differentiate between PTSD brought on by domestic abuse versus someone diagnosed as bipolar? Do you think this diagnosis of bipolar disorder is too readily rendered? Well, if you read the studies, they say in the black community, we are misdiagnosed most of the time.
Most of the time.
But to answer your question about differentiating between PTSD and brought on by domestic abuse or whatever, PTSD is PTSD. There, you can read up on PTSD. If people are have all of the symptoms of PTSD, because they differ.
Yeah.
PTSD looks different from
person to
from
person.
bipolar.
Yeah. And from person to person.
Right. Well, because they're different. You may not have all of the symptoms, but PTSD have some symptoms that you're not going to have some symptoms that are not currently listed in PTSD, and it's PTSD.
Right.
I mean, they know all of the
Different
symptoms of PTSD. And so I think once we educate ourselves, as we stated earlier, really take the time and read it. And don't just read surface read. Read all of the stuff so you can now have a better clue on what you're dealing with. Because a person that's suffering from PTSD is different from a person that's suffering from bipolarism.
Right.
And so, just reading, learning, actually educating yourself on what it is. And plus that'll help you identify it sooner. Gotcha. And if you have somebody in your inner circle, so a loved one that's dealing with it, now you can say, babe, let's go to the doctor. Let's both go get a checkup.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you don't make them feel like, oh, you think something wrong with me?
So that's good. That's what I was asking about earlier. How do you attack this situation, man?
Let's go together.
How do you tackle it?
Because the deal is, we all want to live healthy, long lives, right?
Healthy, yes.
Healthy, long lives. So if we encourage them to let's do it together, I want to go get checked out too. You know what I'm saying? Let's go make sure that we're going to live this life fulfilled, happy, have a quality of life.
What's crazy is if you could be dealing with somebody that has a strong case of whatever, and what you don't realize is you can have a mild case of whatever. So actually going with them to get them help, you might uncover some things that you might have some things going on. I'm gonna tell you, it's a beautiful situation, man. And I know dealing with counseling, doing couples counseling or whatnot, one-on-one counseling, when you and your wife are doing your work, when you uncover layers from different people, and you have people that have an aha moment, like, oh my God, I didn't know I had that going on.
Right. Well, because a lot of us, as you stated earlier, we know we're doing stuff, but we don't know the root cause of it.
Right.
And a lot of us deal with, I use the analogy of a fruit tree. A lot of us deal with the fruit instead of getting to the root.
Okay.
And so I normally ask people to envision, let's just say an apple tree, right? Envision an apple tree, and every branch you see, it's full of apples, right?
I like that.
So now in your mind, pick every apple off that tree.
Okay.
Those are the fruits, right? You pick every fruit off that tree. Will those apples grow back?
Those fruits, the apples gonna grow back.
Yeah, the next season, they're gonna come right back on that tree, right?
I like that.
So now you're dealing with those same problems again, right?
Right.
Now, let's take that same apple tree, pull all the apples off that tree. Now kill the root.
Okay.
Will that tree grow apples again?
I like that. No, it will not. So.
Right. So some of us are so busy dealing with the fruit. We're dealing with the behaviors. Like, why he cheating?
Right.
Or why she doing this?
Right.
That's a fruit. You get to the root of why somebody's doing what they're doing. Now you can resolve. You'll kill all those negative fruit.
Gotcha.
And I think even with mental illness, we're dealing with their behavior, and so we're turned off by the behavior until we're not intrigued enough to say, "Why are you doing that?"
Why? Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm the why guy. Like, I have to ask myself, why did I do that? Because if I don't get to the why, I'm destined to repeat what I did.
Absolutely. It's a conversation, man. At the end of the day, man, life is a conversation, and it is to be had. If you don't ask the whys, you'll never understand. You'll be talking in circles, right? Pretty much.
That's pretty much what's going to happen. We have somebody named Phyllis Lee. She says, so what do you do for someone whose so-called friend gave them acid?
Oh, man.
Phyllis, there's nothing you can do other than encourage that person that you know who was given the acid to seek medical treatment. Because unfortunately, some things are irreversible. You know what I'm saying? There are documented cases of people who've, like I mentioned earlier, taken these designer drugs, or somebody slipped them a Mickey, something happened to them, and they went somewhere else.
Went south. Yep.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there is nothing that can be done to bring them back. And so now, the best for them at this point is to go on some type of treatment regimen. There are medicines that are out there that can regulate people's imbalances.
Right.
And here's the sad thing about that. I've talked to several, and when I say several, I'm being generous, people who have mental disorders, who are on medication, and they all say the same thing. They hate the way the medicine makes them feel. And
all the time. You're right.
And it's hard to explain to someone, although you feel weird, you look normal to us. Because once they stop taking the medicine and it's out of their system, they go to an unnatural or non-normal behavior pattern.
Right.
And it's, it kind of puts everybody on alert around them. But while they're on that medication and looking normal to us,
they feel weird.
They don't feel themselves. They feel like they're out of themselves. They've described all these feelings of, there's this euphoric feeling. They feel like, everything's in slow. And all of them have said this on some level that I've spoken to. And so when I hear people tell me that story or tell me those things, my heart bleeds for them.
Likewise.
Because it's like, my God, like even what they thought would help them makes them feel weird.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So honestly, guys, this mental health thing is something that we should not play with. We should take it seriously. And we should be more understanding about it as well, too.
Absolutely. That's another reason. That's another thing when I say I'm muscling up. Having understanding of knowing what you're dealing with, man. Because one thing about it is you can't clam up. Clamming up basically is ignoring the situation when you clam up because you don't want to play a part of it. You don't want to have a part of it. And educating yourself and putting yourself in a position where you understand what you're dealing with. And you can't understand what you're dealing with if, first of all, you don't recognize it, you don't acknowledge it, and then you don't get educated on it.
And and don't get me wrong, I am not a fool to sit here and pretend like certain mental disorders are not frightful. I had an opportunity to observe someone that had multiple personalities. Okay.
Likewise.
And it terrified me. I have no other way to articulate. It literally terrified me because this person, whenever this individual would change personalities, and the psychiatrist knew the trigger words that would bring out each personality.
Oh, wow.
Because each personality would come under certain circumstances.
Right.
And the psychiatrist knew what to say to get the particular personality to come. And what I witnessed scared me. Because each personality, this person's facial structure looked different.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
It looked demonic. You know what I'm saying? And I knew at that point that the clinical side of this was not the area I was going in.
I got you.
You see what I'm saying? And I was like, oh no, I can't, I can't deal with that. And I knew that wasn't my calling, when I saw that, And I do commend if there's anyone on here that is a therapist, and you work with people who have mental illness, my hat goes off to you because I know that you have to have a heart of gold to work with people who are struggling with something so serious, because sometimes they can't even articulate it. You know what I'm saying?
Talking about that person can't even say.
Right. They really can't express what's going on with them.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? And so my kudos to those who are working with people who have mental illnesses, man. What do you and Bernard say when y'all
21
gun salute?
21 gun
Yeah.
salute to you.
21 gun salute to people who are in that field, helping people navigate those waters, man, of mental illness. I mean, because that's something serious. That's something very serious.
Absolutely, man. I take my hat off. And actually, anybody that's watching right now, if you're dealing with mental illness, I appreciate you for chiming in. We appreciate you for chiming in and staying on this long. We're approaching about an hour now, so we really appreciate you. And just know, this was not a bash mental illness, people. If you watch the show, you should know that.
Right.
So
yeah, my heart. I have a heart for it,
absolutely.
and I want to see you get healed.
Absolutely.
I want to see you have a life, a quality of life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And because I mean, think about it. If you got heart disease, right? You get diagnosed with heart disease. Are you gonna not treat it?
I'm gonna treat it, though.
Right. Because why? You want a good quality of life.
Absolutely.
You know, if we have any form of illness that will take away our quality of life, we're gonna do whatever we can to reverse it so we can have a good quality of life.
Absolutely.
Mental illness is no different. It is no different. We all want that quality of life. I just challenge you, if you are a person on here who is dealing with a mental illness and you are in a relationship or you're trying to be in a relationship, be honest with the person that you're with.
Thank you.
Let them know what you're dealing with so you can have a peace of mind that this person is chosen to be with you, even though you're dealing with what you're dealing with. Absolutely. See, now you know you have a partner. You know, because it's unfair for you to get into a relationship with someone, you don't tell them what you're dealing with, and some stressful event brings that part of you out, and it terrifies them, and they flee. Now you feel that they wrong for leaving you, and I thought you said you love me. But yeah, I thought you said you love me. Why you didn't tell me?
Right.
You know, so we have to be careful with that.
Well, what he just spoke on, when he's speaking on having a partner, you can have an awesome partner. Listen, people that know people that has a mental illness, trust me, a person with a mental illness can be the best partner you can ever have if they've been diagnosed and if they're getting help. And I'm going to tell you why. Because after they've gotten help, they've been diagnosed and they're getting help, when they go through a cycle of clinics, they go through the whole process of their life. They have to understand their life and they have to understand where their triggers lie and where they come from. So what those people do is help them get to the roots of where their triggers come from. So going to the roots of their triggers, they learn a lot about themselves. And they learn a lot about how the mind works and how their body works. And while they learn their mind, their body, they learn how people work. So a lot of times they learn how to listen. So trust me, if you ever deal with somebody with a mental illness, they could be the best. They can be the best partner you ever had in your whole entire life. But there's a few things that has to be done. That has to be acknowledged. That had to be dealt with properly, and there have to be education. And after the education has to be applied.
And for those of us who are Christians, and we have a strong prayer foundation, I am not suggesting not to pray. Please pray. And while you pray, because I read in the book where it says, faith without works is dead. So while you praying and believing, help that person get to a place where someone with the skill set can help them navigate through that. Because your prayer may be the thing that they need to encourage them to go get the help. Sometimes we're looking for God to do stuff for us that He's already given us the strength to do for ourselves. And we blame God when we don't get the outcome that we wanted, and God all along was saying, well, you could have gone to the doctor.
Right, just like that.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I gave that person that gift, you know? And so don't be afraid to match your prayers with, and because you take them to the doctor doesn't mean that your faith was waning.
Right.
It just means that, Lord, give me the strength to make the right decision on this matter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And we do that, and let's build a community where we're healthy and we're whole, and even with mental illnesses, let's not be afraid of it. Let's not put some negative stigma on it, because listen, unfortunately, with the financial situations that we're dealing with some of the racial climates, with the stuff that black people are dealing with in the communities with police officers, there are so many things that could trigger these things. You know what I'm saying? Losing a job, losing a loved one. We have to be a little bit more intentional about how we're dealing with mental illness situations.
I'm gonna share with you, because you're speaking on triggers. I remember I had to bury my great grandmother. I went home. I was at my grandmother's home. Me, my family, my immediate family was there, my brothers and my mother. I broke down in a cry I had never experienced in my life. And I was not crying about my great grandmother. I couldn't tell you why I was crying. I remember my grandmother walked down the hallway and she said, "Dietrich, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't answer, but I didn't let her see that I was crying. I let her go back to her room, and I went in that kitchen, man, and put my hands on that counter, and I let out the hardest, longest cry, and I couldn't tell you why I was crying. But I'm gonna tell you what's crazy. After that, I developed social anxiety. I had always been that guy. I could walk in the room, talk to anybody, it's whatever. A young lady, I could talk to her. A young man about some business, I could talk to him. And then something came over me, and I walk in the room, and I feel like it would be so much pressure on me. It feel like a gorilla or something was standing on my chest.
Right.
And I couldn't understand it. And I actually had a situation not too long ago. I was in a room full of people. We were at a house warming. And these people shoved the microphone in my face, and I could see the looks on the people's faces saying, "What is wrong with you?" It was like it was in slow motion. It was like I was in a movie or something, and I couldn't get out. I told my children it's time to go. Gave them folks their microphone. I said something real lame so I can get out of there, so I can sound cool.
Right.
And it came out lame.
Right.
Because I was not operating out of myself. All I wanted to do was get out of that room. And it's crazy that me, myself, a lot of people look at me like, "Why you trick James? Well, you don't deal with this, that, and the third. You don't meet no strangers."
Right.
I don't. But a lot of that is, a lot of me meeting people that I don't know is making myself feel comfortable. Because I'm uncomfortable.
It's facing your fears.
It's facing my fears, because I want to conquer this thing.
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. We have to realize the dangers of us dealing with unresolved issues. Unresolved issues can manifest in so many different ways that is not beneficial to any form of relationship. Family, work, intimate, church, you know what I'm saying? Spiritual, whatever, you know. And we have to get to a point where we're okay with not self-analyzing, going, something's wrong with me. And not only do I recognize something's wrong with me, I want to figure out what it is. And why it's happening. Because that's the only way we're going to get resolution. We cannot continue to be afraid to get help. Please hear me. Stop being afraid to get help. There is someone who actually cares. There are many people out here who still care about your well-being. They don't even have to know you.
Yeah.
But when someone sees you suffering, there are people out there who genuinely want to see you whole.
Yeah.
And the danger is when they care more for you than you care for yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
That part.
So ladies and gentlemen, I just encourage you all, when it comes to mental health, when it comes to your own mental health, make sure that we're doing the things, exercise, diet, because a lot of this stuff is coming from stuff we're ingesting. You know, and we have to be careful, even with the medication we're taking. Be very, very studious on what you're putting in your body and how it's affecting you.
That is.
And I think that helps us with that life of longevity and thriving and all that good stuff that we want and desire. Yeah.
That is, man. I hope we talked about some things, man, that you wanted to hear tonight. Being that the show is dating people with mental illness, man. Tonight, man, I ain't gonna lie. I appreciate the subject. I appreciate Jimmy coming on. I guess closing out, I know, Jimmy, you might have something to say to closing out, but if I could say anything, because I'm going to let him have the floor in closing.
Oh, wow.
Man, y'all be mindful mindful of who you're dealing with. Tread lightly, but don't clam up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say tread lightly, just be mindful, okay? Don't share a level of guilt, meaning don't feel like anything is your fault, okay? It's neither one of you's fault. It's your fault if you don't care enough to help them get help. Period, point blank. And keep the negative emotions. Negative emotions, man, just make people turn a shy head, and it makes them clam up, and it makes them feel even more lower in their self-esteem. It makes them go into their shells, and that's not gonna help anyone. So that's what I want to close with. Jimmy.
Well, I'm going to close with this. Guys, please continue to support Thrive 365. Renard and Dietrich are doing a great job with this platform. They cover a lot of different subjects, even the one last week, Church Hurt. I mean, they cover some very, very relevant topics. And I just encourage you all to continue to support them. And, I'm going to give my shameless plug. And for those of you who, may be single and want to prepare yourself for a relationship, reach out. You can either hit me up on Facebook, or you can go to our website, rrtministry.com. Or, and if you are in a relationship and you're struggling and you just need some help navigating what you're experiencing, please reach out. I'll say this: what we discuss does not leave that room, that space that we're talking in. And I promise you this: if you're willing to change what you're currently doing, you will see the success that you're looking for.
That's it. There it is, man. Say no more, man. I thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for inviting me.
Hey, man,
I enjoyed
listen, boy, we're trying to have him right back, man, as much as possible, man, because we always learn something. It's always a blessing. This is Thrive 365. This is where success, substance, and relationships matter. You matter. Tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be right back here. We'll have my co-host here, Renard Polk, man. And hey, we're going to get it in, my friend. Till then, man, y'all keep Jaguar living.
Peace.
Y'all know what it is.